Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. I am shooting this episode in the summer of 2021, so you might be looking and saying, well, this isn't the set we've been seeing lately. What's going on? Some of this stuff you might recognize from my summer specials. I'm shooting this in the summer, so the plan is that you will be watching this episode many weeks or months after I shoot it. And the reason being is the things I'm going to show you today, at least some of them, not all of them, but some of them are things that I plan to sell. I'm going to sell them in the fall, like September, October. So I thought I better, if I'm ever going to have them on the show, I've got to do it now, because once they're gone, they're not available. But I don't want to use this show to promote sales. So you're not going to see this episode until long after these are gone. So by the time you're watching this, if things go as planned, many of the things you're going to see are going to be out of my collection. So I'm shooting this in the summer just so that I have an episode on record with some of this stuff with the intention of probably selling many of these things in the fall. So you will see this episode later in the fall or winter, maybe even early 2022. I'm not sure. I'll probably wait until I have a week where I didn't have time to shoot an episode, and so I'll say, hey, this is a good week for this. All right, so that's why I'm dressed in summer clothes, and you might be. I'm assuming that I'm not going to keep the same stuff behind me or the same poster like after Halloween. I'm sure, I would think. So you're seeing a throwback to episodes, what it looked like, what the set looked like in episodes from a few months ago. So I'm addressing future dwellers at this moment. I'm addressing people in the future. I might be dead. I don't know. Maybe I die in fall of 2021. And you're seeing this. I don't know how it got uploaded without me, but who knows? Maybe the Earth has, or at least civilization, has ended, and we're now in a dystopian society. Well, we kind of already were in a dystopian society, weren't we? I think so. But who knows what the future may hold? You know what the future holds. I don't. I am a voice from the past. Okay. So what I'm going to discuss is an independent toy company. It's a little one-man operation. I mean, one guy owns it, and then he's got assistants who help him with sculpting, painting, artwork, and so on. But it's basically a one-man company that makes custom action figures. The company is Distinctive Dummies. Distinctive Dummies. And it's run by Martin Cage. Martin Cage. And I have a pretty big Distinctive Dummies custom toy collection. And I'm only selling a handful. Some of the ones you're going to see. My focus with Distinctive Dummies would be his Hammer Films action figure series. He does 8-inch Hammer Studios characters, and he's been doing that a long time, way before Mego started doing the licensed Hammer figures. And I'm not selling any of those. Those are untouchable. And you're not going to see any in this episode. You're not going to see any Hammer figures, because I'm going to save those for a future episode where we're just going to look at the Hammer figures and nothing else. And that'll be a long episode. I don't know if it'll be this season. It might be next season. But it'll be a long episode, because there's a lot of Hammer figures. He's done quite a few, and I've got almost every one. And so those are not going to get sold. I'm also not selling any anything that's really near and dear to my heart, like Kolchak, Blood Island, Coffin Joe, Vincent Price, Paul Naschy, those properties, he does figures on all those, and those are not leaving. But there's a few identified that I thought, I like them, but I got to get rid of something. Basically, my cat Billy, who's right over there, he needed some work done. I had to give him an ultrasound, and he might need an upper GI or something. I'm not sure, but he had an ultrasound, which was kind of expensive, and I had some medical issues myself, so I have some bills to pay. I hate selling anything. If I were rich, I would still own everything I ever bought. For 30 years of collecting, I'd need a warehouse to put it all, but I hate selling things. I take some people are just so excited about selling and wheeling and dealing. It makes me sick. I mean, physically ill. I hate selling things. I hate it. I only sell stuff when I absolutely have to, because the wolf's at the door, and I don't have any choice. I gotta get rid of something. So I'm not a wheeler dealer who's making lots of money. No. Every now and then I have to sell something just because I have bills to pay, and I don't have the extra money to handle it. So what do? I reach into my collection and say, what can I stand to get rid of? And after looking at several things, I thought, some of these figures we're going to see, I like them. I'm happy to have owned them, but these can go. That doesn't mean it's not a knock on them at all. They're beautiful, as you'll see, but something had to go, and this is what it had to be. So, but I want to memorialize them with this episode, so I can look back years from now and say, I should never have sold those, which is what I always do. Honestly, I was just looking at someone's Facebook post about their Kenner alien in a box Kenner alien, mint store stock. I was like, I had a store stock boxed alien. Why did I sell that? Oh well. And someone else was talking about their Azrak Henway rare, carded variations, carded monsters, super monsters. And I was like, I had carded rare variants. Why did I sell those? I always regret it. Always regret it. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, so let's start with something that you've already seen. So you saw this in a previous episode. This is a Candyman figure. And we recently had a Candyman reboot, or kind of a sequel / reboot. And at the time of this recording, it just came out. So this is new. I mean, this is topical, I should say. This figure is not new. This figure is several years old. So this is a Distinctive Dummies Candyman, made many years before the NECA or the Mego. And on a Mego review episode, I showed you this Distinctive Dummies Candyman. And he has a backer card. And he came with a clamshell package. And unfortunately, I don't have the clamshell, just the backer card. So a friend of mine sent me this to use on the show, on the previous episode, and now I'm using it again. So I'm getting a lot of mileage out of it. I'm not sure if he expected me to send this back. I don't know. I've had it for months, so I'm not sure if it was his intention that I send it back or not. Obviously, I have not done so. put it right there. Don't fall. So that is an example of a Distinctive Dummies action figure. At the time, there were no Mego-style Candyman figures. That's kind of what Martin does. He takes characters that don't exist in the action figure realm, or at least not in a Mego format, and he gives you the figure you always wanted, but no one has made. And he does it in a very professional way. It doesn't look like a custom toy. It looks like a professionally made, manufactured action figure. And that's what attracted me to his products. For years, I was not really that interested in custom action figures because they looked like what they were. They looked homemade. And I don't collect homemade stuff. I collect manufactured stuff, manufactured toys. And the thing that caught my attention with the Distinctive Dummies figures was the fact that they looked like manufactured toys. They looked like you could hang them on a peg hook in a store. At the time, Toys R Us, which doesn't exist in the USA anymore. Target, Walmart, whatever, and they would look right at home hanging there on the shelf. And the figures themselves, you could hold in your hand, you could hold a mass-produced figure in your hand, and they would look comparable. So because they met that standard, I decided to go ahead and start collecting them. Well, let's see here. Give me a hard time here. Okay. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those episodes where I just have a mess of toys everywhere. Let's put them in there for now. Okay, what did I want to do? Okay, here we go. Alright, so now, this is the figure that started it all, and for me, for my collecting Distinctive Dummies, and this is not going to be for sale. In fact, maybe I should just show you a photo of it instead of trying to take it out. Let's see here. So they don't typically come all wrapped up like this. Let's see here. All right. So this, I want to be very careful. This is my favorite Distinctive Dummies figure. And he is absolutely not for sale. This is Vincent Price as the character Butch from Theater of Blood. Hello, I'm Butch. That is the hairdresser character from Theater of Blood. And at the time of this recording, I am planning to do a Vincent Price episode at some point. I don't know if it's going to be this season or not. So I wasn't sure if I really wanted to show this, because then I would kind of spoil it for that episode. But it's spoiled. I just showed it. Well, actually, maybe I've already done the Vincent Price episode. So maybe it's not spoiled. Maybe by the time you see this, I've already done that episode. So this is what the box looks like. Just imagine him standing in there. This is the back of the box. And you can see it's very professional looking. The 12-inch boxes are among his best and most polished ones. They really look like professional toy boxes. So, let me put him back in here. So that character, this figure, Butch, is the thing that started me collecting Distinctive Dummies. I saw this doll for sale when it was new, and he was offering it new, and I said, I gotta have that. I gotta have that. And then I started collecting his hammer figures, and I got in just in the nick of time. Literally got, he puts them out in waves, so he had like a wave 1 hammer of not 12-inch, but he did some 12-inch hammers, but the ones I'm talking about are his 8-inch Mego style hammer figures, and he had one set left of those when I finally got on the train. I bought this Butch, and then I said, I think I'll start collecting the hammer figures, and he had one set left, and that's the one I got. And then I've been collecting the hammer figures ever since. I haven't been collecting very many of these 12-inch figures. I don't like the 12-inch figures as much as the 8-inch figures. This Butch is an exception, and some of the other ones you're going to see are exceptions, but generally I think he excels at the 8-inch format. And I'm being very careful with this particular one because it's one of the most limited figures he ever did. I think there's only, I don't even know if there's 20 of them, 15 of them. There's very, very few of these. He made a very limited run of these. And the value of this figure has gone up and down. Years ago, I brokered a deal for a friend who had one. And that one sold for $1,500. Now, since then, I saw another one on eBay that did not sell that high. So that's not a firm value by any means, but it has sold for that much. I wouldn't expect, if I did sell it, I wouldn't expect to get that much for it. But I mean, it's possible it has sold for that high. But I'm not selling it. This is, I would have to say this is my favorite Distinctive Dummies figure. The Vincent Price Butch from Theater of Blood. That's my favorite one. And if he had not made this, I don't know if I probably wouldn't have a Distinctive Dummies collection. That's my favorite one. Okay. And that's also why I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it. I got it back in the box as quickly as I could because I'm a little nervous about something happening to that one. Let's see. Alright, so let's look at another 12-inch one. This is Count Yorga. And I hate to sell this, but I think this probably is going to be one of the figures that I sell. I hate to do it. There's the box art. Well, let's take him out. Now, I'm a big fan of the Count Yorga films. There's two of them. Count Yorga Vampire and The Return of Count Yorga. Is he attached to this backer? Can I get him off of here? Okay. And I'm looking at him thinking, I don't want to sell this. I really don't want to sell this. So I'm not sure if I'll sell this one, but that's Count Yorga. If you've seen the movie, you know that that's an excellent likeness of Robert Quarry, who played Count Yorga in the film. That's a beautiful likeness of him. I think it's based more on the poster art for the second film than any particular image from the movie. I don't know if this was modeled off of any movie still photo from the film. It looks a lot like the poster art for the second film, the expression on his face. But then, most of the time when he's attacking someone in the film, that's what he looks like. That's his expression when he's on the attack. And you can see this very elaborate outfit he's got. I mean, it's incredibly elaborate. Very nicely done. Very professionally tailored. Sometimes they're too professionally tailored. One thing that Distinctive Dummies has had to learn over the years is to be a little minimal with some of the costumes, because what works on a 6-foot tall person doesn't work on a 12-inch tall or 8-inch tall person. So if you have too many layers with some of these characters, they have all these layers, like vampires that have a little, the vest, shirt, vest, jacket, cape, half cape, etc. It just builds up too much. So you have to cheat a little bit. And some Distinctive Dummies, especially the 8-inch ones, some of them, the costuming is a little too much because he wants to do every little piece of the costume. It's an attempt to be realistic and not cheat on anything, but have every piece of the costume represented. But then you end up too much bulk. So that's why I think it's better to represent some costume pieces instead of literally making that entire piece. Have a vest that's actually part of the shirt, like, sewn on. Something like that. Like the shirt is just the triangular part here, and the vest is stitched in the same piece to try to flatten it out a little bit. But that's not the problem with this figure. But some of the Distinctive Dummies figures have that issue where there's too much costume. Not this one. This Count Yorga looks perfect. So perfect that I don't think I want to sell him. He's too cool. I know I'm going to look at all these and I can't sell that one. I can't sell it. I had some Dom Post masks. I was thinking, I'll sell those too. And I got them out and I looked at them. I said, I can't sell these. So no, I won't be selling those. That's the thing. I say, okay, what can I sell? I start looking at everything and I think, I can't sell it. And now, I'm sure by the end of this episode, I'll talk myself into keeping all of this. Honestly, I'd rather sell my blood than some of this. How do you do that? How do you sell your blood? I know people donate their blood. I never even looked into selling your blood. I don't think anyone would want my blood because I've got a blood mutation. JAK2 blood mutation. I have mutant blood. So I don't know if that's something someone else would want in their body. A JAK2 blood mutation, technically it's a form of cancer, but it's nothing to worry about really if you take care of yourself. It's not, it's not going to affect your life or anything. You just got to take care of yourself. But it could cause a blood clot if you're not careful, if you got to take aspirin, baby aspirin. Give me a lot of personal information here. I kind of like having mutant blood because it kind of makes me feel like a vampire or a monster of some kind. Mutant blood cells. Let's see here. I've also got mutant eyes. I had, oh, what's this? Oh, okay. Okay, so I was worried for a second there. Mutant eyes, let me tell you this. So I was at a ophthalmologist one time. It was Greg Birdie's clinic. If you're in the St. Louis area, you know who Greg Birdie is. They do advertising on TV and radio all the time. But he's an eye doctor. So he's used me in medical talks. Like when he goes to medical conventions, he'll have my eyes as an example, like, you know, slides of my eyes. But that's because of my tear ducts. Apparently I have something with my tear ducts that's so unique and amazing that he uses it as an example at medical conventions. But the other thing about my eyes, and this he doesn't use, as far as I know, at medical conventions. He told me he requested my permission to use my eyes for medical. Oh, there's Billy. Hey, Billy. Are you gonna stay with us a while? You can stay there, sweetie. You can stay there. You can stay there. That's my Billy. He'll probably jump off in a second. So it was something with my tear ducts. That was the reason he wanted to use my eyes and, you know, photos of my eyes in a medical convention. But the other thing, the reason I have mutant eyes, apparently, and this was shown to me on a diagram. Imagine this is the eyeball. Light goes in. Billy just whacked the camera. Okay, let me finish this story. I better check that camera. So here's the eyeball. Light goes in through the iris, and imagine here's the orb. Here's the light going in, and then it goes in a straight line, I guess, and hits the optic nerve. Okay, and you can see on a diagram the light going in there. Okay, on my eyes, the light goes in, and it disperses all through my eyeball, like that, instead of hitting the optic nerve in a straight line. It goes in, just goes, and this was shown to me, like photos, x-rays, or whatever, of my eyes, and I don't know what's going on there. How is it that I can see? I can't see very well, as you might notice if you watch the show. I'm always like, what does this say? I have like a magnifying glass. What does this say? But somehow I see. I don't know how it works, but the light doesn't go through my iris direct to the nerve. It goes in and disperses all throughout my eye, like a cloud. So that's kind of unique. I don't know if there's a medical name for that condition. So I have very strange eyes and strange blood. I have mutant blood and mutant eyes. Okay, Billy knocked the camera, so let me just stop a moment and check to make sure it's still working and everything. Okay, the camera's still working. And Billy's still down there. He'll probably knock it a few more times. All right, let's continue looking at 12-inch figures. So here is Dr. Pretorius. If I could imitate Una O'Connor, is that her name? Yeah, Una O'Connor. If I could imitate her voice, I would say Dr. Pretorius, just like she does in the movie. But I can't imitate her voice. But that's Dr. Pretorius. And of course, he's dressed in black, so you're getting all kinds of reflections. As is always the case here, when we have a character dressed in black. But I'll take him out. And I hate to get rid of him, because, I mean, there's no Dr. Pretorius toys. I love the character of Dr. Pretorius. He's a bad guy, but I kind of identify with him. I was booted. Booted is the word. There he is. There's with his little homunculi in the jars. Okay, let's take a look at him. So, I don't display him, obviously, but he would look great displayed with some Sideshow Universal monsters. And I wish Sideshow had made Dr. Pretorius. I mean, they made an odd selection of characters. He had Bela Lugosi's Gypsy and Fritz and some other weird ones. But we didn't get Henry Frankenstein. We didn't get Van Helsing. We didn't get Dr. Pretorius. It was kind of odd, the ones they chose to do. I guess it would depend if they got a certain actor like this. I guess they got, I forgot his name. Who's Fritz and Renfield, Dwight Fry. So they must have got the Dwight Fry Estates license, and they got Lugosi's license. So they said, let's run with it. We got the license for these actors. But I wish they would have pursued this character. Dr. Pretorius was played by the actor Ernest Thesiger, who had a long career in movies. But he's probably most famous for the role of Dr. Pretorius. And I don't know if there is an Ernest Thesiger estate who handles his likeness. I've never really seen any merchandising for Dr. Pretorius or any of his other characters. I'd love to see Dr. Pretorius become a merchandised Universal Monsters character. That would be wonderful, but it hasn't happened yet, so it's a good thing that we have this custom figure to fill the gap. And you can see it's a very good likeness of him. Very nice costume. Doesn't come with a lab coat. That's probably asking a little too much. Does it? It does come with a lab coat. See, I knew that. There we go. It does come with a lab coat, actually. There it is. There's his lab coat. So it does come with a lab coat. Very impressive. I wish Sideshow had made a Dr. Pretorius for their 12-inch monsters. They did not. But that's kind of what Distinctive Dummies does. They take figures that should have been made, that people wish had been made, but for whatever reason were never made, and they make them. Let me get through this box, and I'll pause and talk a little bit more about the company. Okay. Here, well, we'll save that one. Okay, here is a very popular one. This is the Salem's Lot Barlow. That's interesting. On the side it says Vampires of Salem, and then Salem's Lot. He has that artwork. I wonder why they did that, why they put that Vampires of Salem on there. Here's a artwork on the back. Pretty decent artwork on these. I really like these 12-inch boxes. They all have decent artwork. Oh, there's poor Barlow. Yep, he got staked. Let's take this out. Huh, I wonder why there are... There's all this bubble wrap in here. I guess this must have been... I don't know what that was for. But here he is. He's a very, very elaborate figure. Very delicate. Very detailed, beautifully made. Wonderful tailoring. Wonderful sculpt. Kind of reminds me of the Hare Krishna zombie in Dawn of the Dead because of the blue and the bald head and the way his head's tilted. I mean, it's not permanently tilted; it just happens to be positioned like that. I don't want to mess with it too much. These are fully posable, but just the same, I'd rather not loosen them up and pose them too much. You can see his hand. More details. What his costume looks like. Okay, let's put him back. It's a beautiful figure. I mean, you might see a licensed Mego Mr. Barlow at some point, but it won't look like this. It won't look like that. Ah. Just okay. I got one more 12-inch in here to show you, but let me take a little break for a second and talk about the company. And the main thing I have to say about the company is that I'm not going to say very much about the company. It's a custom toy outfit. They make custom toys. They make limited runs between 50 to 100, maybe, usually not that many. Usually it's like 60, 70, 80 pieces. I think they started with runs of 50, then they upped it to 60, and I think on some of them they've had like 70, 80, and there have been a few that have been 100 or more, but not many. I think the average these days is in the 60 to 80 range. They are announced on one day of the month by email, and if you want them, you gotta buy them that day because they sell out in hours. If you wait till the end of the day, they're gone. Usually 3 or 4 hours after the email goes out, they're all sold out. So it's kind of like a doll maker. He really is a doll maker. If you're in the doll collecting world, a lot of doll makers do this. They make these very limited runs of dolls, and they announce them one day every month, and they sell out in a few hours. They have a mailing list, and if you're on their subscription list, you get the email, and then if you want it, you buy it right then. If you wait, it's gone. You can buy it on eBay for 3 times the price. But basically, I'm sure he wouldn't, Martin Cage, I'm sure he would not like to hear this, but he's a doll maker. That's what he is. He is a doll maker. It's a doll collector company. It makes dolls. He's a doll maker. And if you're in the doll collecting hobby, this model is very common. This is many, many, many doll makers operate exactly like this. They make handmade dolls, so they have a small team that makes these dolls. They make them in these limited runs. They're not cheap, but they're good quality, and they have a fan base, a customer base that knows how high quality they are and is a fan of their work. And they're on a mailing list, and then they send an announcement of a new doll available on the mailing list, and if you want it, you buy it right then, and they sell out in a few hours. That's a very common story in the doll collecting world. That's really the norm. That's how it works. And that's really what this is. It's doll collecting for people like me, for weird people like me who like these kinds of characters. Like I said, they're unlicensed, so that's why I want to be a little careful about, don't want to give his home address. He does not live in the United States, nor does he live in the United Kingdom, nor does he live in Canada. So he is far away. But honestly, I think, I don't know if he's ever gotten in trouble for any of this. If so, I don't think it would have gone beyond a cease and desist. That's probably what they would do. They give him a cease and desist notice, and then he'd say, okay. But by then, he's already, if it was like a run of 50 figures, it's already out the door and gone. So he could say, oh, I won't do that again. Usually when the run is that small, most IP owners don't bother with it. Because it's not worth bothering. It's just so few. The volume is so little. There's so few sales and so little money. It's not worth the trouble. What else can I say about Mr. Cage? I don't want to say too much about him. I think that's probably enough. That gives you an idea of what this company is, where these things come from. He doesn't, although he does do some of the sculpting, and he used to do all the sculpting, he used to do all the painting, and all the costuming, he used to do all himself. Over time, people who admired his work came on board to help him. So now he has a small crew, not physically present where he lives, but around the world. He's got a small crew, and someone in one country might be doing a sculpt, and someone in another company will be painting heads, and someone in another country might be sewing costumes, someone in another country might be doing artwork. So it's it's around the world. And then I don't know if he assembles it in his house, or if he's got someone else who assembles all this. Yeah, but it's a nice little operation. It's really, though, it's a fan activity. It's not a corporation. It's a small group of fans creating the toys they want to see, creating the toys that nobody else is making, creating characters that, if they don't do it, probably no one else is going to do it, to satisfy a small group of collectors who really, really want toys of these characters that they can't get anywhere else. So that's what this company is all about. And I call it a company. I don't think it's incorporated or anything like that. It's a guy in his house and friends around the world who get together and make these things. Okay, so here is one of my favorites. This is Paul Naschy as Waldemar Daninsky, El Hombre Lobo, the werewolf from Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman, or Women. The original title is Werewolf Shadow. The movie Werewolf Shadow, released in the United States as Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman, or Women. I thought it was Women, but it might be Woman. I'm sure everyone watches knows and is yelling at me. I guess it's woman, singular. I don't know. Is it woman or women? I don't know. The original title is Werewolf Shadow. I know that. But, okay, so on the back of this, we have that artwork. And we have that title. All that information. Now that, as soon as I'm seeing this backwards in this mirror, let me show you more of the box art, and then let me get in front of me where I can actually read it. Okay, so it's La Noche G. Walpurgis. So Walpurgis, or Walpurgis night, is a night of the year that in horror movies it's always when the witches and the werewolves come out. Not really, but in horror movies that's how it is. And I don't know the history of how this movie started. I should know this. I hate being caught on camera without my facts straight. But I know this movie was known as Werewolf Shadow, and it was retitled Werewolf versus the Vampire Women, or Woman. It has a lot of titles. Like, here's a poster up here. It's basically like Werewolf versus Countess Dracula is more or less what it says. So it had a lot of titles, which is par for the course with Paul Naschy movies. They're always retitled all over the world. Every country has a different title. Let's see here. Take him out. He's still attached to this card. And I want to take him out of there. Yeah, he can come out of there. Just be very careful. There we go. Okay. I'm watching Billy, my cat, down there. He's making noises. So here he is. And that's what he looks like. And that's what Paul Naschy's werewolf looks like. They're low-budget films, and the makeup is low budget. But that's okay. It has a certain look to it. It has a distinctive look. Here's his outfit. His werewolf hands. Is he got padding? Yeah, he's got padding. Now that's something Sideshow should have done with their Wolfman figure, which is really skinny. They should have put padding in it like this. Oh. Why don't I not do that? let's just... let's see. Oh, why did I take him out? Let's see. Let's get him in there. There we go. Okay, he's back. A little Billy hair getting on him. I'm distracted because I'm upset that I don't know whether it's werewolf versus the vampire women, or as it's written on the box, werewolf versus the vampire woman. I thought it was women. Am I wrong? Because there's multiple female vampires in the movie. And I also don't know the date of Walpurgis Night. I should know that. I'm caught with my pants down. I don't have my facts straight. Anyway, that's Paul Naschy, and we're going to look at some other Paul Naschy figures here. Let's put him over here. Yes. Put him over here for the moment. Okay. So we haven't seen any 8-inch figures. Here are some 8-inch figures. So this is an 8-inch version of the same character. Here's our first 8-inch Distinctive Dummies figure that we've looked at so far. This is same character. Paul Naschy as Valdemar Daninsky, El Hombre Lobo, from Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman. I'll just go with the way it's written on the card. It's probably right. It's probably singular woman instead of women. And you can see it's very similar to that 12-inch figure. Very similar. I like them both, but I like this 8-inch one a little more. I think it clicks a little more at 8 inches. It works a little better. And here is the back. This is part of a series of 4 werewolf characters from different movies. So this wasn't a Paul Naschy series. This was one of 4 different werewolves, 4 different actors, 4 different movies, 4 different characters. Now, I've been praising the box design of those 12-inch figures. And here I'm going to get a little critical. When it comes to the 8-inch figures, the hammer line, and you're not going to see any hammers today because we're going to do a special episode just on hammers at a future date. I know, incidentally, I'm not selling any Paul Naschy figures. I'm keeping, if it's Paul Naschy, I'm keeping it. So these are not going to be for sale. But the hammer figures, the artwork is great because it's taken from the movie posters. Again, it's unlicensed, so he doesn't have to worry about, does he have the rights to the poster or whatever. He takes the movie poster and uses it for the artwork. And that looks great. But for virtually everything else, he uses original artwork. And that, it's kind of like Mego and their issues with their card art. Distinctive Dummies has issues with the card art. I think that's the weakest link in the Distinctive Dummies operation. The card art for their 8-inch figures, their non-hammer 8-inch figures, card art tends to be weak. And I wish the card art was up to the same level as the figure. It is with the hammer figures because it's taken from the poster art. Everything else, though, uses original art. And it's, there's some good ones, but usually it's not professional commercial illustration level quality. Whereas I think the toy does look like a manufactured professional level toy. So I wish the card art and the toy were on the same level. If the toy looked homemade, who cares? But the toy looks so professional, I don't want the artwork to look homemade. I want the artwork to be on the same level. Now you can see here, that's not bad, but it's not on the same, it's not commercial illustration. And you can see what he looks like there. That's, that doesn't look right. The way the werewolf looks in that image. It's probably based on a poster image, but it doesn't translate well. And you can see some of these faces, you can't even tell who they are. Like that's Andreas from Return of the Vampire. You can't tell that's who it's supposed to be. I think this one's I Was a Teenage Werewolf. I'm not sure, but you can't really tell. And that's, I think, Legend of the Werewolf, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like a Yeti. Can't really tell. So I am critical about some of the card art on the 8-inch figures. I love the 12-inch boxes because it uses movie art, and also the illustrations on the big boxes tend to be really good. Like, let's get Barlow out again. That looks great. That's a beautiful illustration. That's wonderful. That looks great. I wish the 8-inch figures all looked as good as that. Let's look at, that's pretty decent. That's pretty decent looking. Well, the big Paul Naschy 12-inch has poster art, and it looks great. So I wish all the art looked as good as that. Now here's the Candyman art. This looks really good. Look at that. That's good. That's good. That artwork, that's good art. Look at that. Very nice. If they all looked as good as that, it'd be wonderful. Now that one down there, not so hot. The bottom of it, but the top's pretty good. And those all look great. So it's kind of hot and cold. But looking at this toy, the toy is wonderful. And this insert is something I put in there. They don't come with plastic inserts like that. See the insert holding it in place? They don't come with that. I put that in there. I think that is something Distinctive Dummies should consider, is adding these inserts as a stock piece of the packaging. I bought a couple of times I bought a batch of those and stuck them on all my Distinctive Dummies bubbles. And this is clamshell. It just opens up. It's fastened with a piece of tape just to keep it from popping open. And that's the way they come shipped. They come shipped with a piece of tape like that. But you can open it up and take them out. Fiddle with them, whatever you want to do with them. The figures come wrapped up in bubble wrap. So you pop open the clamshell, undo the bubble wrap, and if you want, you can put the bubble wrap behind the figure. I've done that. Or just throw it away. I usually save the bubble wrap because it's part of the toy. It's part of the packaging. And it usually has the name of the character on the bubble wrap. So it's part of the packaging, so I try to keep that. But I really wish they all had these inserts that I put in there. I wish they came with this stock from the company with these plastic inserts holding the figure in place. They can still put some bubble wrap over the front, maybe to protect the paint and everything, but I think it would be good to, or include the insert separately. You know, that would increase the cost a little bit, but it just adds to the presentation. Now here's Waldemar Daninsky again from Night of the Werewolf, which is a remake of Werewolf Shadow. And he looks very different in that movie. So the remake was made about a decade after the original. The original's from the 70s, the remake's from the 80s. And it's sacrilege, but I prefer the remake. I like the remake Werewolf, Night of the Werewolf more than the original Werewolf Shadow. Or Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman. I prefer the remake, and I watch it more often. And in the remake, he looks very different. He has much better makeup, much more advanced. He has kind of like Oliver Reed's werewolf. He has ears on top of his head, like Oliver Reed in Curse of the Werewolf. In fact, everything about his makeup in Night of the Werewolf kind of looks Hammer inspired. It's just better. It's a better, more fully realized makeup creation. Here's the back. Another set of 4 different werewolves from different movies. And this costume is very elaborate. As the character, in the movie, he wears a very elaborate costume, much more so than the original film. In the remake, he wears a very elaborate costume. Now, unfortunately, this one, look at that. These boots are not molded in black plastic. They're molded in yellow and painted black. And unfortunately, the paint doesn't quite stick to the plastic, and it's flaked off on this boot. You can see the yellow showing through. And I didn't know that the boots, I guess probably a lot of them are like that, painted different colors. Why use yellow? I'm not sure. Maybe they're cheaper, I don't know. But they're yellow boots painted the correct color for the costume. So that was kind of a surprise when that paint flaked off. It's yellow underneath. That's kind of weird. And you can see, it's a shame. It looks like it's the whole front of that boot. The paint's going to come off of that. Kind of like the paint on the wide waist Azrak Hanway creature. It just falls off because it doesn't stick to the plastic. Same situation. But aside from that little issue, it's a great figure. And they're both great figures. And where else are you going to get Paul Naschy action figures? Let's get the other one out. Yeah. So, I mean, where else are you going to get Paul Naschy action figures? So if you're a Paul Naschy fan, this is pretty incredible to have 12-inch and 8-inch Paul Naschy, Waldemar Daninsky action figures. That's kind of amazing. Mego is not going to do Waldemar Daninsky figures. NECA probably is not going to do Paul Naschy, Waldemar Daninsky action figures. I could be mistaken, but probably not. So that's the kind of thing that has a huge cult following, but it's just not mainstream enough to warrant the investment of a mainstream toy company spending thousands of dollars to obtain licensing and making a minimum run of action figures. Because if Mego were going to do this, Mego has a minimum run of 5,000. They don't do anything that they can't do at least 5,000 of. So the minimum number is 5,000. Maybe at the time I'm recording this, Mego started their deal with Topps, where they have that weekly Topps exclusive. Maybe by the time you're seeing this, maybe that's over. I don't know. But right now it's going on, where they have action figures that maybe would not warrant a full retail run. So they have them available on the Topps website for a week, and however many orders they get, that's how many they make. Maybe that would be a model for a mainstream company doing something like Paul Naschy figures. But even then, I can't see it. I can't see NECA or Mezco or anybody. Maybe Trick or Treat Studios, because I know the people who run that. I know that they would. They've done Blood Island stuff. They've dipped into more obscure licenses for their masks, and they're getting into action figures now. So maybe that company would do something like a Paul Naschy figure, maybe. That's the only mainstream company I can imagine doing factory-made, manufactured, licensed action figures of Paul Naschy. Otherwise, it's just, and even then, even with them, that's a long shot. I just can't see it happening any other way. And that's, I think, the beauty of the custom toy world. particularly at this level of quality, this very professional level of quality. You're just not going to get these toys any other way. And it's not like whoever owns the IP on that, who would that even be? With Paul Naschy, the rights to those movies must be so scattered to the winds. I can't even imagine trying to find your way through that twisted path to work out all the licensing to get a Paul Naschy license, because I can just imagine how serpentine that must be to try to work out the licensing to any of his the film and the character and everything. I would imagine that would be a challenge. Maybe Frankenstein's Bloody Terror, originally Mark of the Wolfman, because Sam Sherman and Independent International owns the U.S. rights to that. So there's someone you can work with who's fan friendly and communicates with people. So you might be able to work something out with him. That's the only way I could see that happening, would be through that movie, because that guy has the rights to that movie. And he's someone you can work with. Otherwise, forget it. But I don't have a problem with these unlicensed toys. I don't have an ethical, moral dilemma at all. I feel like I think 20 years ago I was more clean-cut Rick Grimes, fresh from waking up in the hospital. And I might have had a little more of a hand-wringing moral, ethical dilemma about that. Now I'm bearded caveman Rick Grimes, who will probably shoot you as soon as look at you. And I have no problem. I have no problem. The zombies finally got to me, pushed me over the edge, and now I've got the beard. And so I'm in my caveman Rick Grimes stage of life, where I just don't care. I just don't care. Like, life's too short. If you want this stuff, and it's not going to happen any other way, and this guy's willing to do it, more power to him. And the people who own the rights to most of these things couldn't care less. They don't even half the time know they own it. And some of them are rats and skunks and crooked people in the first place, and I just don't care. I just don't care. I'm just happy during the short time I'm alive to be able to have a Paul Naschy figure. And if that's the way it's going to happen, great. If Mattel wants to make the ultimate Paul Naschy El Hombre Lobo 12-inch action figure and put it on a shelf in Target for $19.99, I will buy it like that. But that's not going to happen. The only way it's going to happen, the only way to get that figure is this way, through a custom toy company. Okay, let's see what else we got here. So here's a non-horror character. This is Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. Now that's an odd choice for Distinctive Dummies, but they started branching out into more of these non-horror characters later, after the company had been around for a while and developed a strong fan base. They started getting to more of these non-horror, non-monster cult characters. You can see the artwork. Not bad at the top. Not bad. Not really commercial level. Yeah, I don't like that one so much, that bottom image. So this was part of a Cinema Crazies lineup. They had characters like Alex from A Clockwork Orange and Jack Torrance from The Shining. And this is the only one of that series that I bought. I don't even remember why I bought it. I think it just caught my fancy. I said, why not? And I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a licensed taxi driver figure out there. There is licensed Clockwork Orange merchandise. There have been multiple Clockwork Orange licensed action figures of different formats, but not a taxi driver. His costume is really good, really elaborate. Let me see what this button is. He's got a button he's wearing here. We are the people. So he gets involved with a political movement because he's after that I don't remember the character's name, the woman who's working for the politician. Well, I don't remember the character name, but anyway, there's a woman on the staff of a politician running for office, and Travis is attracted to her and gets obsessed with her, and in his weird mind, he wants to assassinate the politician. I mean, things don't make logical sense in his brain, and so I think that's button is a campaign button, but that's just a level of detail. He's got other little patches and things, and they're all very detailed. I mean, I wish I could show you this one on the side. I don't think I can get a good shot of it. It's a lot of detail. Can you see that? I don't know if it's too, I don't know if I can get to focus on it. Here's that button. So very detailed. Very detailed. And the likeness, I mean, I can imagine a better likeness, but it's not bad. It's pretty decent for an 8-inch format. Pretty decent. So it's a very nice figure. He's got a gun accessory, it looks like. Pistol. And I mean, a mainstream company would never make this figure, and it wouldn't give him a gun. Should they make this figure? Should they give him a gun? I don't know, but if you like this movie, you might want this figure. Here is Cesare from the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Okay, so it used to be, everyone says Caligari, and then for a while, Cinists said Caligari. That's the correct pronunciation. But I think it's come back around again, and the preferred pronunciation is back to Caligari. So I'm going to say Caligari. I prefer Caligari. It just sounds better to my American ears. So I'm going to say Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. That might be the Huji way to say it. I don't know. Caligari just doesn't sound right. So this is Cesare, the somnambulist from the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And there have been other Cesare figures. I was going to say licensed, but I'm not sure that they're the ones I'm thinking of are licensed. I don't know who they would license them through. Who controls the rights to Caligari? Is it the F.W. Murnau Foundation, or is it the Institute? I don't know if it's a foundation or an institute. Murnau didn't direct the movie, but there's an organization in his name that controls the international rights to a lot of the classic German silent films, and pays for the restoration, and anything that's authorized is usually done through them. It's the FW Murnau. I don't know if it's institute or foundation, and I don't know if they control Caligari or not. I'm guessing they do, because they seem to control most of those films, most of those German expressionist films. But maybe not that one. I don't know. Here is the back. So the artwork on this one, on the series, is very nice. I mean, look at that. That's professional artwork. Those are paintings. They're not drawn with pencils or pens. Those are paintings. And that's a painting painted with paint on a canvas. And that looks very nice. And I wish all of the figures had artwork of that caliber. Unfortunately, they don't. And this particular series didn't sell very well, so that might have helped put the nail in the coffin of going all out with the artwork and commissioning actual paintings like this, because the series didn't sell that well. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that it was deemed that it wasn't cost effective to do that in the future. This figure, I like the head, but the costume is a little too superhero-ish. I think he really needed a body stocking, like the old Mego Spider-Man, something like that. A one-piece body stocking, even though the character's costume in the movie is a two-piece costume. I think as an action figure, to get the slender look, it should be one piece, and then the stripe should be silk screened, or however they, on this, in this custom level, however they want to do it. It wouldn't be it might not be silk screened on a custom toy. Maybe it would be hand painted, but that would be even better, hand painted. I think that doing it with fabric strips stitched in the costume doesn't look quite right, because those lines on the movie character are very faint. They're not so noticeable as this. And it's a very skinny, emaciated character, and the costume here is just a little too bulky. So I'm not crazy about the costume, but I like the head sculpt. I like the paint. I like the card art. I don't think they made Dr. Caligari himself. No, they didn't. And that's a shame that they made Cesare, but they didn't make Caligari. Well, anyways, this is the only figure from this line that I bought. There was a Count Orlok Nosferatu, but he didn't look quite right. I think the Mego one looks much better. But I liked this one. I liked the Cesare, so I bought him. I have some criticisms of the costume, but all in all, I think it might be the best figure from that series. And eventually we'll have an episode on the Silent Screamers, which I think is the best. Even though they're very stylized, they're probably the best silent movie toys I've seen, and those are mainstream toys. Oh, and something odd about this, the tops of these two clamshells are yellowing. They're the only ones that are doing that. I don't know what it is. It was this batch of clamshells, because he just buys, like, in bulk, generic clamshells. Maybe there's something wrong with this batch, but the tops are yellowing on these clamshells, and I don't see that, luckily, on any other ones, just these two. I don't know what these two were exposed to that the rest of the collection wasn't exposed to, but these two are turning yellow. Let me just put these over here for now. I'll put them over here. Put them away later. Okay, now, okay, a couple more to show you. How much time we have here? Okay. Oh, Billy's down here. Okay. Well, let's show you this one. I don't talk about it much, but people who know me know that I have a connection to Coffin Joe, the Brazilian horror character Coffin Joe. I don't talk about it much on this show, I mean. But I have some connections to the world of Coffin Joe. And this is a licensed Coffin Joe action figure that Distinctive Dummies made under a partnership with Paul Bearer Press. And I don't know a whole lot about Paul Bearer Press, but about a couple years ago, they teamed up with Distinctive Dummies to make a series of figures that were exclusive to Paul Bearer Press. So you ordered them through the Paul Bearer Press website, and all of them, well, I was going to say all of them have been licensed. That's not the case. But they tend to be, if there's licensing to be had, they tend to have that license. If there's a license that can be obtained, they tend to be licensed. The Paul Bearer Press series. Now, some of them are, they've done a series on characters from H.P. Lovecraft, and I don't know if those have any kind of licensing. I'm not sure about that. I don't think so. I could be wrong. But if it's with those Paul Bearer Press figures, if it's possible to get a license, they tend to have the license. And this Coffin Joe was licensed from the family of Coffin Joe. Now he's kind of jumbled. You can see his. This box has never been opened. You can see his medallion is displaced there off to the side, and his cape is a mess. I mean, it's in his face. I don't want to open the box to straighten him out because it's taped shut. If it were not taped shut, I would open it and straighten them out, but they taped it shut. There's the artwork in the back. Now that's professional artwork. Whether you like the style or not, you can argue about that, but the professionalism, you can't argue with. That's professional artwork. And that is a piece of professional commercial art. And that's what I wish all the Distinctive Dummies figures had. So if he were not taped shut, I'd take him out and show him to you. But he's taped shut. But it's a great likeness of Coffin Joe from maybe the fourth Coffin Joe movie, Awakening of the Beast. I think that's definitely, it's based on the Awakening of the Beast version of Coffin Joe. It's his costume, it's his eyebrows and his expression. It's the Awakening of the Beast Coffin Joe. Which often, when someone's going to do something with Coffin Joe, that's usually what they go for, because there's lots of promotional photos from that movie. The best photos of Coffin Joe seem to come from that movie. The earlier films, it's hard to get visual material, reference material to look at to do sculpts or artwork. And I remember when, let me show you the bottom here. I didn't notice that. That's worth seeing, that coffin at the bottom. And then, this is cool. So this, on the top of the box, okay, that is Coffin Joe's business card from the second movie, This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse. He has a business card, and on the business card is that design. That's his business card. He hands his card to someone, and it's got that design. So that's definitely worth showing you that. That's a nice little detail. The Coffin Joe series, there's At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul, This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse, The Strange World of Coffin Joe, Awakening of the Beast, the movie that in the U.S. is called The Bloody Exorcism of Coffin Joe, and Hallucinations of a Deranged Mind, and Embodiment of Evil. Those are the films, I think it's 7, those are the films that have the actual character of Coffin Joe in them, and he's supposed to be Coffin Joe. There are other movies like, Finis Hominis, and Strange Hostel of Pleasures, and other films where the actor Jose Mojica Marins is playing a character that looks like Coffin Joe, seems to be Coffin Joe, but it's not officially Coffin Joe. So those, the 7 I just mentioned are, as far as I hope I got that right, are the official Coffin Joe movies where the character officially appears. But there's other movies with the same actor where he's playing a character that might as well be Coffin Joe, but it's not officially Coffin Joe. And I have a whole story with the actor, director, creator of Coffin Joe, Jose Mojica Marins' whole history there, which I'll tell one of these days on the show. People who know me know all about it, but that would be an episode unto itself. But I knew him. He was very dear to me, and I got to work with him. And it was just a great experience. And unfortunately, he's passed away. So I was aware when they were making this figure, and they had the blessing of his family to make this figure, and his family got approval of the likeness. And I was aware of the process while they were making this figure. And I remember Martin Cage, the owner of Distinctive Dummies, had trouble finding reference photos, and I sent him some reference photos, whatever I could dig up, to try to help get the likeness right, get the costume right, particularly that medallion. It's very hard to find a good photo of that medallion that he wears. Well, I think it's in Awakening of the Beast. I think he also has it in The Strange World of Coffin Joe. And then he switches to an owl. In later films, he's got an owl. And then in Embodiment of Evil, he's got a specially made medallion just for that film. Okay, so that's Coffin Joe. Let's show, this is the last one. We'll show you this one. So, of course, I'm not selling Coffin Joe. I'm not selling this. So this is a Night Stalker, Kolchak the Night Stalker 2-pack. And Distinctive Dummies will sometimes do these 2-packs. I have several of them. I have several Hammer ones. I think this is the only non-Hammer 2-pack I've got. I could be wrong. But there's Kolchak and the vampire from that movie. And I forgot if you pronounce his name Janos Skorzinski, or do you pronounce the J Janos Skorzinski? I forgot. They say his name in the movie, but I forgot if they pronounce the J or not. If it's pronounced as a Y, Janos. I think it's Janos. Whatever I think, it's probably the opposite. But so this illustration, it's not bad, but it's not what I would consider professional commercial art. It's fan art, and as such, it's not bad. But I would have rather seen a higher level of art on that card. But still, it makes a nice statement, and I like the choice of color for the background. It just looks good. The two figures, with that illustration next to them look really nice. And let's get a better shot of those two. You know, good likenesses of the two actors. Nice seersucker suit on Kolchak. I used to have I still have it. I used to wear a seersucker suit. See these white sneakers he's got. I used to have a seersucker suit. I still got the suit, but I mean, it doesn't fit me anymore. I can't wear it. I actually dug it out not long ago and looked at it and wished I could still fit in it. And the vampire has a nice suit. Nice black formal suit. And they're both good likenesses of the actors. And here is the back. So here on the back, he combines photos from the TV movie, The Night Stalker, with this illustration, which is, it's not bad, but it's fan art. It's not commercial art. So I really wish he had professional level commercial art, or went completely with photos like this. And I bet there's a promotional poster for the Night Stalker somewhere. I don't know. I wouldn't want him to use someone else's fan art, that's for sure, but I don't know. The toys are so nice. I wish the art was as good as the toys, and so the whole package would be complete. But it is a custom toy. These are custom toys. They're basically homemade. And the art, I have a friend who likes the art just the way it is because it's not a commercial art level, because he prefers the homemade look. I think if you're into custom toys, that maybe there's an aesthetic there that you kind of dig. How was this in there? Was it like this? No, it couldn't have been like that. It had to be like this. There's like a homemade aesthetic that I think is kind of endearing to custom toy collectors. But see, I'm not really a custom toy collector. I collect distinctive dummies because they look so professional. If they looked like the average custom toy, I wouldn't be collecting them. Part of the whole appeal for me is the fact that they don't look like custom toys. It's the fact that they look like real toys. That's why I like them. Okay, I think that's the last one I wanted to show you. That's it. Alright, that's it. So, I need to wrap this up. This is like 2 hours long. Good gosh. Okay, so that was my look at Distinctive Dummies. We didn't look at any of the hammer figures. We'll do that another time. I don't know how we're going to do that, because I've got a lot more hammer Distinctive Dummies figures than all of these put together. I don't even know how many I've got. Many, 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 many hammer figures. So whenever we do that episode, we're not going to look at all of them, but we'll, I think, select some highlights to show you. But that'll be a future episode. And he's done some other things I like. He did a Blood Island chlorophyll monster. This guy, he did a figure of him, and I've got that. And you know, there's some other cool stuff he's done that I've got. But most of my collection is the Hammer figures. Most of my Distinctive Dummies collection is the Hammer line. Besides the ones you've seen here, and a couple others like the Chlorophyll Monster, but 80% of my Distinctive Dummies collection is Hammer. And if he hadn't made the Hammer figures, I don't think I'd have these. I'd have the Vincent Price, but I don't think I'd have the rest of them. The Hammer is really, after buying that Vincent Price, that got me in the door, and then the Hammer figures sealed the deal. And I've collected almost every Hammer figure he put out. So, that's a crash course on one of the premier custom toy makers in the world of action figures and horror custom toys. There's a lot of superhero custom toy makers, and I'm not really in that world. And I'm sure there's Star Wars custom toy makers, and I'm not really in that world. But as far as like horror custom toy makers, I'd say Distinctive Dummies has got to be one of the top ones. And and now you know why. You've seen, I think it's a good cross-section of his non-Hammer output. I think that's it. Let's wrap this up. Thanks for watching once again. This was shot during the summer of 2021, so you're probably watching this many weeks or months later. I hope you had a good fall, or maybe it's even 2022 when you're seeing this. Maybe it's the winter. I hope you had a good holiday season. I don't know when you're going to see this, but I hope things are going well for you and for me. I don't know what the future holds. You do. You know. I don't know, because I'm from the past. You're in the future. I hope you're enjoying the new season of Basement of Horror, which by the time you see this is underway. I hope I'm doing a good job. I hope the episodes are good. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. It's all in my future. I'm a time traveler from the past. Okay. So long. Thanks for watching. And do I have a new ending catchphrase now? I don't know. I'll say Basement of Horror will return.